I'm glad to hear that you think that TAP should be mandatory. The service members from Ellsworth Air Force Base, all of them felt it should be mandatory. Mr. Bozeman and I have had discussions about, given what we've heard across the country and how effective the program is for those who've participated, how we can best go about making sure more people are able to participate. Now, the Marines have made TAP mandatory, as you know. And you had mentioned that you think that the encouragement or the requirement could come from the command level, from the adjutants general, to encourage more people to take advantage of the TAP program among National Guardsmen and women, correct?
Correct, and that was for National Guard and Reserve.
Yes. Separate from National Guard and Reserve, the other branches of the armed services, in your opinion, since the Marines have made it mandatory, but the other branches haven't yet, do you think that this is a leadership issue and it can be resolved there, or do you think it needs a legislative fix?
Well, I know, and I think, and you're all aware that a lot of the obstruction to making it mandatory was commands felt they were going to lose their people. But I think in the last couple of years it's become very evident that TAP is a good recruitment tool. So I think that's one way to look at it. I personally, when I retired, my command, my naval command that I was at, it was mandatory at my command to attend TAP before you retired or separated. So in the Navy, and I think in a lot of the other services, there are commands here and there who make it mandatory before you separate. But I think hearing the testimony of service members today, you know, they talk about getting the word out, and I'm not sure if it would require legislation, but I think if the services, the various service organizations heard testimony like you heard today from the service members who say it should be mandatory because they benefited from it, I'm glad I went through it when I retired because I benefited from it. Again, example was I had employment waiting for me when I retired, a very good job in the Twin Cities. And quite frankly, when I decided to come back to South Dakota because I was tired of the life in the big city, I used my TAP resources again to fill out complete my resume, etc. And I had a job, a very good job, which I'm at right now, in no time. But requiring legislation, I'm not sure if that would be the right way. I think then some of the services the services would feel that they're being forced, and you know how people don't like to be forced. But again, I think if they start hearing how good of a recruitment tool it is, and hearing the testimony again of what you heard today, that the service members think it should be mandatory because it really benefited them, I think we could see more of it.
Now, I know you have some TAP facilitators that have joined you here today.
Yes.
And could you share with the committee whether from your perspective or some of what you've heard from them, have you received any suggestions from service members or from members of the Guard of ways to improve TAP? Maybe the issue of the spouses participating that we heard from the prior panel. Any other suggestions other than sort of the mandatory issue or the command level encouragement? Any other suggestions for how we best improve or enhance its availability?
Well, I would have to say that Ellsworth Air Force Base has done a great job in getting the word out so spouses to attend. As you know, as I had my testimony, we strongly encourage spouses to attend. I'm thinking about Sue Machetta, who testified earlier, talked about the program, and she has a very good feedback system in place. After every TAP workshop, every service member who went through the TAP workshop fills out a feedback, critique form, etc. She reviews them, she sends them on to Earl Schultz, our DOL, VETS State Director, and myself, and to the TAP facilitators here in the local office, South Dakota Department of Labor local office, so we can all review the feedback that we received, and we have made some tweaks based on service members' feedback.
Thank you very much. One last question, and then I'll see if Mr. Bozeman has any further ones. I had mentioned that we had made some changes in the National Defense Authorization Act of 2008, where the REAP benefits are now available for 10 years post-separation. Mr. Oliver, has your office taken any proactive steps working with either Guard leadership or other resources to identify and communicate with men and women who may have been deployed in OIF or OEF, but who separated from service, who may not be yet aware that they're entitled to utilize these REAP benefits?
Yes, I'll let George answer that question as well. They've started that process. I'll let him address that.
Madam Chairwoman, as we talked when we had our meeting, and I think it was late February, and Tom Murphy and myself, when we received that information, we developed a fact sheet. We distributed not only through our Veteran Service Network, all the county and tribal service officers, the certifying officials, and also we provided it electronically through the National Guard Network, and they provided it to their members. The one problem, and then we presented this very topic at some of the briefings or outreach briefings we had. The one issue we have is even the fact sheets that are available now are not very clear on who is actually eligible for what and how it. The response I received from St. Louis is this: tell them to apply to see if they will meet the requirements. And that isn't a very easy thing to do when you're trying to brief individuals on the simple facts of the program. And that was one of our National Guard briefings. And the administrator that we're working there with, Cindy, she does an outstanding job. She's called for 2 briefings. Part of it was on education, part of it was on post-traumatic stress. But that is the one thing that, it's similar to what happened when they had Chapter 1606 and they allowed that extension. Basically, the VA was allowing the extension, but no one was willing to talk about it or tell anybody about it for 6 months after they made the decision. So during that 6-month period, there's a lot of individuals that are missed. And so if we could get a comprehensive fact sheet and good direction from the VA that actually will pay the benefit, we have the resources to make that information known in a quick hurry.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your testimony. Mr. Bozeman, any further questions? Thank you for your insights and your expertise that you bring to the table. We appreciate it. We'll look forward to following up with you on some of your suggestions. And again, thank you for your testimony and your service to our states and nations veterans. Thank you. We're going